This podcast is brought to you by Reynolds and Reynolds, the industry leader in automotive technology. Learn how Spark AI, Reynolds' unified AI data layer, can help you unlock your full potential by visiting rey.com/spark-AI. That's REY.com/spark-AI.
Welcome to this weekend drive edition of Daily Drive for the fourth week in January 2026. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. We're breaking down some of the biggest stories in the auto industry from the past week and looking forward to what's in store in the days ahead. Joining me today are Larry Velaquette, who covers Toyota, Subaru, and Mazda for Automotive News. Larry Legend, good to have you back on the show.
Always good to be here, Kel.
And Michael Martinez, who covers Ford and the UAW for Automotive News. Mike, welcome back to Weekend Drive.
Thanks, Kel.
So before we get into this week's news, Mike, you were at the Detroit Auto Show this month. Any lingering thoughts or stories from the show or surrounding events that are still resonating?
I'd say it's the affordability crisis, and I'd say that's going to be top of mind for everything we cover this year. You heard Ford's executives talk a lot about that. Jim Farley noted the reason why Ford had its best sales year since before the pandemic last year was because of vehicles like Maverick. You heard Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa say they're going to bring more $40,000 and maybe $30,000 vehicles to market. It is what everybody's talking about.
Gotcha. And speaking of affordability, let's start with what might be the theme of both 2025 and 2026 so far. Tight wallets and policy whiplash. Now, President Trump announced 10% tariffs on 8 European nations this week, including Germany, France, and the UK, escalating to 25% unless Denmark sells Greenland. He had a tense visit to Davos, but now he's backing down, saying there's a tentative framework for a deal. Mike, as soon as things seem to be settling down, this just becomes more chaos for auto executives trying to plan long-term investments. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, this is what life is now, right? And it's what life's going to be for the next 3 years, at least. I mean, I don't know how you can plan for anything at this point. You just have to listen to what he says or tweets or truths, whatever you call it, and wait to see if he backs down in a couple days. Half the time, what he says does not last. Whatever he's proposing policy-wise changes from one minute to the next, so you can't really plan for it. This particular one, yeah, it was super relevant at the start of the week, and now by the time our listeners are hearing this, it doesn't matter anymore. So what really matters? I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this other than it's how it's going to be for the next 3 years. You have to take it day by day.
Now, Larry, Germany's VDA said the costs would be enormous, and then it all changed within days. Where do you think it all goes from here? Is there any way of knowing?
Where it goes from here, nobody knows. But what I will say is that if your plans are changing by the day or by the hour because of the changing tune of this administration, you're not doing it right. Lay out a plan, stick to a plan, make sure your plan is flexible enough to deal with contingencies, but don't react. Because if you react, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And your kids, your family is going to need to see you at some point, right? If you're an exec at a supplier or at an OEM right now, you just gotta lay down your plan and try to do the best you can. It's the only way to go. In terms of the suppliers, what I would say, and we're going to get into this a little later, suppliers have it rough because they don't have the cushion, the margin, to change plans that, say, automakers do, right? They live a lot closer to the vest, and they have to react. So at some point, just on the off chance it's real, they have to at least plan, right? But I don't know what you do if you're a supplier, but I know you're a lot closer to bankruptcy than you were a couple of years ago.
Mm. Well, Larry, speaking of trade, Canada announced it's entering formal discussions with the U.S. to review USMCA starting this month. Prime Minister Mark Carney says there are tremendous benefits if they work cooperatively. But the US has a long list of grievances about dairy, digital services, alcohol. What are you watching for?
I thought Jerry Stiller was dead, but we have now entered Festivus. We're going to start with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. What I will say about this is that USMCA, NAFTA, whatever you want to call it, that agreement is a prime benefit. It's something that suppliers and automakers have banked on for decades now. And if we're going to change it in a fit of pique because somebody wants to air their grievances, I don't know what you do with that other than to try and lobby to let people know how important USMCA is to Canada, to Mexico, and especially to the United States, and especially to consumers of the United States in the United States who who are worried about their vehicles being affordable. That affordability issue is going to be a theme, and it's going to be a bigger theme if something happens to USMCA.
Now, Mike, this could reshape North American auto production. How significant is this review?
Well, first of all, I'd say, Larry, after the airing of grievances, I would pay good money to watch the feats of strength. But, in terms of how consequential this is, potentially not at all, because let's be honest, does USMCA really matter right now? Trump completely upended trade between the three nations based on his tariff policy and his own whims. Effectively, you could argue it's effectively rendered useless right now. The USMCA doesn't matter. And Trump, when he was in Detroit the other week, said it's irrelevant. He doesn't care about it. He doesn't care about this review. So in theory, if they don't do anything with it, they just sort of let it ride out until it dies, whatever year in the future that is. It's a ways away. I don't know that it matters beyond what he is decreeing online or in the White House about individual tariffs. And you're already seeing the North American market disrupted because companies are bringing more production in-house. In many cases, they're bringing it from Canada back to the United States or up from Mexico back to the US. And you'll probably see that continue to appease Trump and the current regime that we have. But to Larry's point, parts, still a big part of this, still a significant part of the industry relies on parts crossing the border, both north and south of the U.S. So it could be consequential. But again, does it matter if Trump's just going to change things unilaterally anyway with tariffs?
Yeah. If you're Canada or Mexico, how do you negotiate in good faith when the person on the other side of the negotiation apparently is not negotiating in good faith? That makes it extremely difficult to try and get a bargain that everybody can live with. We thought we had a bargain everybody could live with the last time we did this, right? And now we come back, Trump gets back into office, says, I'm not going to live with this anymore. There's something I want to point out here. I've got a column coming up on this, but the latest CPI estimate, Consumer Price Index estimate, very interesting sub-fact in there. The rate of inflation for motor vehicle maintenance and repair was double the rate of inflation across the overall economy in 2025. Now, some of that is tariffs. It's the price of parts going up. And because those replacement parts largely are built in Mexico and some in Canada. If you're bringing in parts, they don't have to be whole sub-assemblies to, being shipped to an assembly plant. The price of parts is going up, and that's making the cost of operating an automobile higher for everybody, especially in collision, everything else. These are big issues that are going to hit this year, and will it come to a head? I don't know.
Good stuff, guys. Coming up, we'll talk about what the latest Auto Industry Confidence Index tells us, Lincoln's plan to grow despite shrinking its lineup, and more. That's next on Weekend Drive.
If you're an automotive supplier and you know your team is building the next big thing, Prove it on the industry's biggest innovation stage. Automotive News is now accepting applications for the 2026 PACE program. PACE Awards recognize traditional and non-traditional suppliers worldwide for new product, process, and business model innovation, and entries must be innovations already commercialized through a sale to an automaker. Still pre-commercial but past the pilot stage? PACE Pilot recognizes post-pilot, pre-commercial innovations across automotive and future mobility, products, software, IT systems, and processes with the potential to revolutionize an automaker's business. All submissions are reviewed by an independent panel of judges, and MEMA is the exclusive lead sponsor. Ready to be recognized? Apply by February 9th at autonews.com.
When your AI tools are siloed, lost data, duplicate entries, and confusion are inevitable. Spark AI isn't another AI tool to manage. Instead, it's a unified AI data layer, changing the game by ensuring your solutions are making life easier and working at their highest capacity. Don't miss Spark at NADA. Watch Ray, our new AI assistant, bring everything together in one intuitive command center for smart, fast decision-making. Ray answers your questions at any time, providing instant messaging, insights, help videos, or live support. Instantly analyze your sales history and market trends, or generate a sales report with one prompt. You can even ask which cars to buy at auction today for the best return. Schedule an appointment at our booth for everything from a short demo to a full retail management system demonstration using our core AI products. Visit rayrey.com/NADA. That's REYREY.com/NADA.
Welcome back to Weekend Drive. I'm Kellen Walker with Larry Bellaquette and Michael Martinez. Now let's talk about the latest Auto Industry Confidence Index results that we released this week. We surveyed automakers, dealers, and suppliers about their business conditions in Q4. Mike, what stood out to you from these results?
Well, I'd say the thing that jumped out to me was the fact that dealers kind of are now more pessimistic, or at least in this latest survey, than suppliers have been. And we know, Larry mentioned it earlier in this podcast, a difficult time they're having. And when you think about it on the surface, it doesn't necessarily make sense because, hey, sales ended up, obviously very brand to brand, but they did okay last year compared to 2024, even with the tariff uncertainty. But we're hearing from dealers who are saying that they worry about things like overhead costs and the cost of product. Again, I think some of that relating back to the fact that the trade policy, the federal policy is changing. Vehicles continue to get more expensive. Customers are worried about that. So it's harder for them to think that 26 will be a growth year because there's so many headwinds on the horizon, so to speak. So that's surprising to me because I think by and large, dealers are pretty optimistic people. And to see that now their numbers have fallen below that of suppliers, concerning, especially as we head into the NADA show in a couple of weeks.
You know, if you think about it, right, dealers went from, during the pandemic, they had their most profitable years ever. They made money hand over fist during the pandemic. Now every aspect of their business is getting squeezed. New vehicles are getting squeezed. Their new sales are getting squeezed because of affordability. Used pre-owned vehicles are getting squeezed because of A, affordability, and B, supply. You know, attaining supply because you're getting leftover residual effects from the pandemic and the lack of manufacturing during those periods and the lack of leasing. And then now that is extending in, that affordability issue is extending into the service lane. And that has always been a kind of a bulwark for dealers, the service profits. And if those start getting cut, along with these other two pieces of the puzzle, that portends some hard times ahead.
Now, Larry, suppliers were more confident about their own company's performance, but more pessimistic about the industry overall than automakers and dealers. That's an interesting split. What do you make of that?
It's run since we've been doing this survey. It's been consistent, right? Because as you're answering this survey, you can see, you know what's going on in-house. you can't really see what's going on across the rest of the industry. If you're a tier 1 supplier, you hope that your tier 2s and tier 3s that you deal with that supply the components that you need to make your product to send it up to the OEM, you hope they're in good enough financial shape to get through, to weather any storm, because a disruption there means you're disrupted, and then your disruption interrupts production at the OEM level. You have this giant web, right? It's not so much a supply chain as it is a supply web, and any disconnect anywhere in that web can stop production. We saw that during the pandemic, and we can see it again. If somebody goes bankrupt and they cease operation, that has really, really bad consequences. Look at the aluminum fire, which wasn't somebody going out of business. That was a natural disaster. Natural disasters happen, so you can see disruptions, and now you've got this web stretched really, really thin, and suppliers are stressed. You can see why they believe they're having trouble being confident in their futures.
Well, Larry, dealer confidence dropped 5 points from Q3 down to 62. Affordability was the biggest challenge. Are we going to see this affordability crisis ease up in 2026, or is this the new normal?
I don't think we're going to see it ease. I don't see anything that shows things are going to get cheaper anywhere. And it's not just tariffs. I mean, it's interest rates. You look at what happened this week with the 30-year T-note. That's going to push mortgage rates up. That has a knock-on effect for auto lending rates. It's the wrong time to be in debt right now. And if debt is an issue, that does not portend well for dealers, because these are big ticket items and they're getting more and more expensive. I don't know what we do to solve this. Automakers are trying to make some moves on the periphery, doing as much as they can to try and decontent vehicles, to get them down to a number that is maybe a little more manageable. They're trying to do things with lease subvention to try and get keep the vehicles moving. It's going to be a tough sled for the next couple of years, I think.
Mike, you spoke with Lincoln President Joaquin Nuno Whalen this week. He's telling dealers to defy the odds and grow sales in 2026, even though Lincoln just shrunk its U.S. lineup to 3 nameplates from 4. Walk us through this.
Well, I imagine when most people tuned in today, they didn't expect to be talking about Lincoln, because Lincoln hasn't really been worth talking about, quite frankly, lately. And yeah, they lost 25% of their lineup by discontinuing the Corsair, along with Ford discontinuing the Escape. So think about that. They only sell 3 vehicles right now. And they've been going through a little mini surge. I don't know if you want to call it that. The past 2 years, they've grown their sales. They're over 100,000 units now. And this tends to upend that right now, because I think they sold something like 26,000 Corsairs. But you're trying to see, they have new leadership with Joaquin, and he's trying to kind of turn the page and evolve Lincoln further. We had some news a week ago that they are splitting off from the Ford brand and moving their headquarters into the train station, which locally, that's exciting. Anybody that's seen that building, it's a beautiful building. It can, I'm sure, strike inspiration and be a good thing, positive thing for that brand. He is a product guy. He's an engineer. He has an engineering background, worked at GM, Cadillac, full-size SUVs, which is what Lincoln is specializing in right now. So he's trying to rally the troops in this message. This is his first interview, I believe, was with us, with Automotive News. And he's saying, doesn't matter that we lost a product, I still want you to aim to do better than last year. And they're going to try to do that, just like with what Larry said, around the periphery, different trims, decoupling certain features so it's less expensive, maybe doing new features on things like Rejuvenate, that sort of spa-like mode that has the massaging seats and the scents and the coast-to-coast screen playing very relaxing music and images. So, Lincoln's at an inflection point right now. He's trying to keep everybody pumped up and ready to go. I don't know if it works. I think it's a pretty long shot to say that they're going to grow sales with one less product, but you never know.
Larry, Lincoln lost to Corsair, their entry-level crossover. Nuno Whalen says they'll lean on certified pre-owned to make up for it. Does that strategy work?
It's a stretch. It's nothing but a stretch. I don't know. No dealer right now, no matter the brand, is having good luck trying to get enough CPO units to certify, right? Everybody is struggling to find enough vehicles to certify for their dealers. And I don't know how they don't have enough units in operation, especially if they cut the Corsair, to try and feed a CPO, to grow CPO for the rest of their dealer, or, for their dealers. I don't understand how this works. This is, it's great to say, hey, go thread the needle. But you gotta have at least the wherewithal to do it, and the supplies to do it. I don't know how it works that way.
So I will note one thing, guys, that this looks pretty bleak. And how are you going to grow sales with 25% of your lineup gone? He sort of hinted in the interview I did with him that we could see a replacement sooner rather than later for Corsair. He said that small luxury segment is very important to the brand, even though they just cut their product. He didn't insinuate anything. This is all my speculation. They do sell the Corsair overseas. We saw what happened with Nautilus. They moved that production to China and they import it. Not the best decision now that Trump got back in, but they're still doing it. And again, 2025, they grew sales. Could they do that with a China-built Corsair? It would fly in the face of what other companies are doing. We just saw this week that Buick is moving Envision production from China back to the US. But there could be a way for Lincoln to fill that hole quickly and, maybe have a chance to have a positive 26.
So you guys are saying that there's a chance that I might get the Mark 8 back? I'm just kidding.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I wouldn't rule out anything at this point, but I don't know.
Mark 8's for everybody.
Do you remember that Saturday Night Live commercial where they did the bris in the back of a Mark 8?
yeah.
They had a Moyle doing a bris in the back of a Mark 8 to show how smooth the ride is.
Hey.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Oh, man. Those things floated on air, man.
Yeah.
Larry, Mike, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Shalom.
Thanks, Kel.
That's all for this Weekend Drive edition of Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer for his help on today's podcast. You can get the latest news on trade policy, Lincoln's growth strategy, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. Come back on Monday for a conversation with Oscar Tolumshu, General Manager for Automotive and Manufacturing at Amazon Web Services.
I think there's a lot of pressure to actually compress that R&D cycle. So how are automakers using AI and Gen AI to accelerate their vehicle development?
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. If you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.